Now, I don't want to tell a story of where we're entering some kind of post-hierarchical paradise and organizations are going to wither away and networks will flourish, blah, 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 right? We've all seen that slide. That slide's been around for 10 years, always predicting that 10 years in the future it would be paradise. As I look out the window, I'm not seeing it, so I think that slide was probably wrong. What is happening, though, is that the imbalance of power is being adjusted. Right? And we're at the beginning of experimenting with this. There are a lot of other patterns in the book that are less speculative, that are more amenable to observation. Right? Sharing, we've seen, right? The ability to share with others is so widespread, it's been covered to death since Napster, right? That's a pattern that we know is remaking the world. And in many ways, we're already living in that world remade. This is at the other extreme. Collective action, where a group of people comes together and takes action in a way that the fate of the group as a whole affects the fate of all of these individuals. This is the thing that is least well worked out. One of the observations in the book is that this kind of effort, right, forms the experimental wing of political philosophy. Right? We're taking on problems of governance in ways that have not previously been dealt with in all the theorizing about the nation state, because no one imagined that this was possible. The great conversation of the 20th century is large action best taken on by the state, which in its extreme is the communist answer, or is it best taken on by businesses working in the free market, which in its extreme is the libertarian answer? Right? That seemed like it covered the range of possibilities, and in the 20th century it did. The ... at the end of that sentence is because obviously people can't just get together and do these things for themselves. Right? The question was, what kind of institution has to act on behalf of these dispersed groups? What we're at the edge of seeing is that, at least in some situations, the answer is no kind of institution at all. Right? Instead, platform. Right? That if you build a platform where people can come together and coordinate themselves, they can take on some of the advantages that were previously monopolized by institutions. That's the change we're seeing today. As I noted earlier, media is moving from a source of information to a site of action. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of assembly, previously treated as distinct questions. I know you guys didn't write your Constitution down, we wrote ours down, those phrases were in them, but in a way there's shared political resonance to those ideas. Those freedoms were treated separately because they were different things. To speak is not necessarily to publish, and to publish is not necessarily to gather, and now we have a medium where all three of those freedoms are available in one place, and they're broadly available. The institutional monopoly is no longer the thing that determines whether or not you get to speak in public, or whether or not you get to gather. It's also not the case that this is all entirely good, right? That these, if you make any group able to assemble and take on its goals, right, you enable groups that are inimical to the goals of the broader society. And so this is certainly by no means a revolution which is going to leave us all infinitely better off. Right? I'm optimistic that it will leave us in the main better off, but there are going to be new negative effects as well as new positive. This is the other big change, I think, on the way to writing the book. Is I used to be, it's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, I used to be a cyber utopian. I used to think, right, that this was all just going to be a wave of shiny new chrome and all walk around wearing mirror shades and getting the internet through a jack in our skull. And I remember the moment that I stopped thinking that. A student of mine came up to me in the hallway, Erica Yeagley, and she was taking a class of mine at ITP on social media. She was also the community manager for YM. It used to stand for Your Miss, a Young Miss and Your Magazine. It was a magazine aimed at teen girls. And she was managing the online bulletin board. And she said, we're shutting down our health and beauty boards. And I said, well, why would you shut down your health and beauty boards for a magazine for teenage girls? She said, we couldn't get the pro-anorexia girls to shut up. Right? There was a group of girls that come on, and they were determined to trade tips on getting or remaining dangerously thin by choice. And not general tips. This is not now valorizing thinness as a fashion ideal. This is stuff like, if you find yourself feeling hungry, clean your toilet, will make your appetite go away. It's make sure to eat Tums on days you're not eating food. Right? It's recipe-like. So YM shuts the board down. Right? They can't support this. What happens? The girls move over to the web. Right? You can't stop them. And that was the moment where I saw that, and I said, oh, this isn't a side effect of the internet. This is an effect of the internet. right? Everything I think about is about groups coming together and using these tools to form. And that's as true for the pro-anorexia girls as it is for the protest. So this is a case where it's not just an improvement to contemporary society, it's a challenge to it, right? We're going to have new negative effects as well as new positive effects. The question for us, as I said about the experimental wing of political philosophy, is, first of all, how do we experiment enough that we know we've found what works? Right? One of the things the internet does is it lowers the cost of failure instead of the likelihood of failure. It enables us to fail more and learn more. So there's now, I think, a social imperative to simply try a lot of things. And the other question is, how do we, out of that mass of experimentation, how do we pull out the good stuff, and how do we figure out how to react to the bad stuff? So, with that, thank you very much, and start the conversation.